What's up, guys? I'm back here with the 2024 BMW 1300 GS, the R1300 GS, completely redesigned from the ground up. In fact, compared to its predecessor, the 1250, there are only 2 part numbers on this bike, excluding the throttle bodies, that are the same, even though the engine looks the same and a few things look the same, the suspension, blah, blah, blah. Only 2 part numbers. So completely redesigned bike, and I've been riding this thing for, I don't want to say 40 miles now on the freeway, just getting my kind of impressions and ducks in a row. I've been testing modes. This bike is solid, man. I want this bike. This is a solid bike. Everything about this bike is amazing. We've got new features like the auto leveling control here. So this thing will actually change the ride height. That was a big complaint from a lot of the 1250 riders. They were saying, hey, there's no way for me to adjust the height. I gotta change my seat, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta wear platforms, whatever it may be. BMW listened, and now this bike will adjust itself up and down. And if you set it at a certain distance, like right now, there's a main controller here. This button here controls quite a few things. So I've got it mainly on the windscreen, which means the windscreen will automatically go up and down with pressing the button, just like the K1600. But I can also control a few other things, like the dynamic traction control, the dampening control, and there's the ride height. And I can automatically adjust the ride height on the fly if I'd like, which is awesome. So let's kind of get into what kind of power we got here before we get into the electronic stuff here. So I'm in dynamic right now, and dynamic seems to be pretty much everything you want in a bike. 1-to-1 throttle, very sporty, but it'll keep the wheel down unless you, there's my collision warning right there, by the way, which is another awesome feature of this thing. It has a collision warning system, which you can do late, early, medium, whatever, and I'll get into that. Now let's go over here and change the mode up into Econ, which is an interesting mode. And check this out, I got Econ here. It shows this little bar here, and if you're pleasant on it, it's nice. If you go too hard on it, it goes, no, you're not in economy anymore. So it has this nice little meter over this whole thing, and the more you twist the throttle, the more the meter goes away. I don't know, kind of cool, I guess. Not really a big deal, but it is a dual kind of mode, meaning you kind of save some gas there. Now if I go over to, there's no rain on here. You're only allowed to have 4 modes at one time. Rain is still a little dull on the bike. Yeah, you gotta twist quite a bit for it to get some power. Cool, nothing wrong with that. Go to dynamic again, and I've got set up for Dynamic Pro. Now Dynamic Pro, I've set up for everything off. Or I mean, there's no traction control. The ABS as low as it'll go without throwing a warning. This is kind of a 1-to-1 setup for me that I kind of like, with wheelie control off. Yep, it'll pick up the tire, no problem, no problem. And that shift right there, that brings me to another issue that they did not fix in the 1250, which is the shifter itself. It is not smooth, it's clunky, just like I remember that 1250, and our flash of the 1250 did clean up how it felt, but it's something that they should probably be able to easily remedy on this bike. It does feel clunky when you're higher in the RPM and you're shifting through it, and you've got command of the throttle, maybe more than 50%, and you're higher in the RPM, it feels smooth. But when you're just kind of cruising around like a normal person that owns this bike would, it is a little clunky. The downshifts feel clunky, they don't feel buttery smooth. But that's me kind of nitpicking things. That does work well. So BMW managed to get this bike to now the 1300. So we went from that 1250cc to 1300cc. Now we're dealing with 145 horsepower and 109 pound-feet of torque. Now 145 horsepower, that's pretty cool. I gotta be honest, this bike makes the same amount of power that a Flash 1250 makes right out of the box. And I feel this torque. Now 95 of the 109 foot-pounds is available from 3600 to 7800 RPM, utilizing the BMW shift cam technology and a revised intake system. This bike makes a lot of beans right out of the hole, and you can feel it. It just feels so much more robust in the bike. The torque is just awesome. It has torque for days. I'm here at 3000 RPM, 4 grand. It takes off. I mean, it's nothing insane, but it's more than you're going to need for a person buying this kind of bike. And even on the engine that they've revised, they've revised the transmission. Now the transmission doesn't sit behind the crankshaft, it sits under the crankshaft. That gives us more space for the suspension revisions. This also has a system that assists on the center stand. I believe it's an option where you put in the center stand, it will actually assist you bring the bike up on the center stand. So it has a motor for that too. It also has an adjustable suspension, like I mentioned, that goes 1.5 inches up and down however you want it, for riders that are shorter or riders that just want the bike lower or even higher on a regular ride. And it automatically adjusts. See that A for the auto, it'll automatically go up and go down. It's seamless. You don't notice this while you're riding. I had to put it basically in between my legs just to feel it go up and down. When you command it, you can really feel it. The back of it goes up first, then the front. Then the back of it goes down, then the front goes down. And I do like the revised look of the bike. We've got the new X configuration LED running lights with the LED headlight. We've also got blinkers integrated into the hand guards. Pretty good, pretty cool looking, to be honest with you. I wouldn't change these things out ever. They just look awesome, these LED strips on the front here. The bike does not feel like a tank like the 1250 did. This bike feels nimble. It feels like you can do pretty much anything with it. Those shifts are pretty ridiculous. I almost feel like I gotta manually shift it when I'm lowering the RPM. But the bike is so nimble. I almost want to take this thing out. Now this bike is equipped with regular road tires. You can get knobbies on them for those of you guys that are more dedicated to the off-road stuff. And the bike starts at under $19,000, which I think is great for the package you're getting, the electronics and the advancements you're getting on this bike. To give you guys a brief history on the GS and how important this is and how much of a staple it is to BMW Motorrad, if this bike didn't exist 40 years ago when they released it, BMW Motorrad would not be a thing. There would be no S1000RR, there'd be no K1600, there'd be no R18, there'd be no R9T, there'd be no bikes anymore from BMW, because 40 years ago they would have shut the doors if this bike didn't come out and save the brand. That's how important this bike is to BMW. And this bike comes very well equipped. You can also get it with the Akrapovic optional. There's an optional can you can get with Akrapovic that partner with BMW. This does have an exhaust valve, so in the flash, I guess we'll see if we can play with getting that open, get more sound out of this, because right now it's a little quiet. We have also got some experimental stacks we're going to be throwing in this bike. So just so you guys know that don't know what we do here, is we're the only tuners that do this. We take the bikes, we ride them 100-mile stock, we flash them, we do our thing, and then we do 100 miles after the tune. But before all of that, we listen to customer complaints. We look at what customers like with this bike. We look at the target demographic, meaning with our velocity stacks, we're not going to put something in the bike that's going to lose power down low in the mid-range, just sacrifice all of that just for a little bit of power up top. We know the target demographic of this bike doesn't care about that whatsoever. If it gets power up top, awesome, but what we need is power in the low end and the mid-range, and to be smooth and rideable. That's what we care about, just improving the overall rideability of the bike. And to that end, that's why we do this testing. I'll be taking this bike over to the dyno. We'll be doing 60 through 130 testing stock and flashed, because dynos can be manipulated. There could be a bad day on the dyno, but taking GPS numbers, you can't argue with GPS numbers and dyno numbers. I mean, they both back up each other. Now, other than the clutch jerking me around all the time, this bike is insanely smooth. It feels great. The suspension feels amazing. The ride height assist is pretty cool. I mean, I'm 6'3". I don't really notice in the first place, but it's nice, I'm sure, for people to be able to flat foot their bikes and have that confidence when they come to a stop that they're not going to topple over, or they need to like line it perfectly up, or especially if you have a passenger. Those of you guys that know, the passenger will be wiggling around, all of a sudden like the bike just feels heavy on one side. So it's good when coming to a stop and going. And with the release of this new bike, and you can feel it, this bike is 522 pounds wet without a rider. That means fully fueled up, fluids and everything. Where its predecessor was 549, so that's 27-pound difference right there. And then also we got more power, that 145 horsepower. You really feel the difference in these bikes. This bike feels so much more nimble and more capable than its predecessor. Not to knock the 1250, I really like riding that bike as well, but this is a much wanted upgrade. I love everything they've done with it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get this thing on the freeway, and I'm going to show you guys what I think of the freeway impressions, because a lot of the people that are riding this bike are going to be doing it on the freeway or cruising it, so I think it's a good idea to get some impressions there as well. All right, getting on the freeway with the 1300 GS. No collision warning there. I think I have to get a little speed there, but also we got this blind spot detection now. That's a new thing for this year, is blind spot detection, which I think works pretty good. So it won't work. Let me see. Let me try to get someone here real fast. it won't work too far over, which makes sense, right? If I go this like this to someone, it won't do it yet, but I have to get in it. Yeah, right now it's coming on. They're in my blind spot, right? If I go past it, still says they're in my blind spot. Okay, all right, cool. Not bad. The power on the freeway, very good. And all the power you'll need basically is there. All the torque you'll need is there. You don't really need more than this, to be honest with you. I mean, it feels good. They've done a really good job with this. What I'm noticing, let's see if I can get this on the road here. Let me go the lanes. I'm noticing this power falls off up top. Now let's smash this thing to the limiter real quick. So it goes to 9,000 RPM, and it definitely feels a lot more robust than its predecessor. Like, I'm going to do a 60 through 130 on this bike, whereas before on the 1250 I could only do a 20 through 100 because that bike was so dog slow after 100. But this bike has the power to push past that 130 marker, so that is already a testament to me that this bike is already head and shoulders over the 1250. Let's check the automatic windscreen here, or sorry, the electronic windscreen. So it comes down, and yes, I am getting a face full of wind now. I'm not exaggerating when I say it's a massive difference. It doesn't look like it's changing a whole lot, but I like it. I'm going to tell you guys why. When I just rode the Goldwing and the K1600, for example, has this giant, you know, windscreen here that goes up like this high, I want to say. It goes up super high. But when you enact that and you put it up all the way to its maximum limit, the issue you have is the wind stops hitting you from the front, which great, awesome, problem solved, right? But the wind tunnels behind you and starts pushing you from the back. So it feels like someone's pushing on you constantly on the bike, which is a very weird feeling on the bike. This is a nice happy medium. I'm feeling a little bit of wind. About there is where I start feeling wind. Right here is the end of it in here. So I feel a little bit of wind in the top of my head, on my arms, things like that, but I'm not getting that massive push from behind me. So I think this, to be honest with you, is the best compromise. And I'm not going to be hitting any bugs. It'll be rare if I get a bug on my windscreen here. So far, overall, awesome package. And suspension, I'm really enjoying the seat, the riding position, the comfort, the suspension. Everything is just making sense on this bike. We also have adaptive cruise control. Let's see here. So I'll be going here. It's not really going. Let me try to get up here. Oh, I get it, I get it. I put it at 100, I've set it, and it's actually it's following the car a certain distance behind them. So it has the power, but this is the adaptive cruise control. It's almost seamless because I thought it was just kind of going a little bit slow. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Let me see if it starts picking up speed. Yep, it started picking up speed as soon as I changed lanes. So awesome. It's really keeping a good distance. You can see how much distance it's keeping. So what I'm going to do now is get up to the spirited riding section of our testing and test the top end of this bike, see how she feels in a turn, see how she feels throttle on and off, and then top range. We're testing overall rideability of this bike and how we can make it better in every aspect. Alright, we're up to the spirited riding stuff. Brakes, very good. They're Brembo anchors. And I can definitely feel the bike falling off up top, meaning it's making good power, and then it just falls on its face. And then when I shift to the next gear, it's like kind of like a burst of power. But oh my god, is this so much better than the 1250? It's almost ridiculous. The way this bike rides, its flickability. Brakes are actually pretty good, gotta say. Shifting, not very good at the shifting. Very jerky, kind of upsets the balance, so don't do that in a turn. Here we go with the on-off throttle. Very good in first gear for touchy stuff. Very nice. Lost traction right there. Very cool. Oh man, front tire's getting light. This is a 19-inch forged wheel. Forged wheels now with a 17-inch rear, made for obstacles when you go off-roading, of course. Oh man, this thing's cruising. feels so nimble. It doesn't feel like I should be doing this on a touring bike. Brakes, very nice. Predictable. Not bad. Oh, this bike is fun. This bike is so fun. Enjoying this. This is so nice. Completely unexpected. Completely unexpected for an adventure touring bike. It is laughable how good this package is right out of the box. Man, that was a blast. We're even second gear here. It'll pick up the wheel, no problem. This is so cool. This is such a nice package. All right, so enough of that. Let's check out what this thing does. 60 through 130. All right, we're here with the stock 1300 GS, and we are doing the 60 through 130 testing. Let's do it, but let's prepare the bike. First, I've got the Dragy ready to go. That's our GPS device. Put that back in my pocket here. And let me see here. So first, I'm gonna have to get this windscreen down. So let's go ahead and get the windscreen down. Yeah, full race mode, full race mode. There we go. All right, and let's make sure we're in Dynamic Pro. Dynamic Pro it is. And let's go ahead and check our Dynamic Pro settings real quick, just to make 100% sure we are good. Let me go to configuration here. I have the ABS where it doesn't throw a warning right now. That's gonna be fine. Dynamic traction control, and now up on this is different because it's inverse to the S1000R, which lower means off. This one higher means more off. It's kind of weird how it works. So right here we've got wheelie is not suppressed, good there. Engine, we got direct throttle response, so we're giving this thing all the beans right now. I think we're all set here. Waiting for some traffic to clear, but check this out. Man. That's not a terrible view. That's pretty awesome. It's got a line of them coming in here. All right. Back to business. Maybe I'll watch one more. All right, 60 through 130. Here we go. Let's get it. Oh, the shifting is nice up top. So smooth. Come on, baby. Look at this thing sailing. Man. That's not bad. Get the windscreen back up. Alright, you guys saw it. That was a 10.3 second 60 through 130. Very, very good. Like I said, at 1250 before, I couldn't even do a 60 through 130. It was just a 20 through 100 because it needed so much real estate to get to 130. I couldn't find a place. I needed a couple miles to get there. So big improvement for this bike. And just going through the twisties up there, or sorry, these more spirited riding stuff, this bike has so much torque. You can feel that shift cam doing its work, and that 95 foot-pounds of torque available from 36 to 7,800 RPM. It is the chef's kiss on this bike. It feels so good. Every gear is usable. It isn't just a top-end bike, even though they've increased the bore and shortened the stroke. With that shift cam, it makes this an all-around perfect package technologically, and the way the bike feels. I think this is a step up, and this is kind of pushes the bar for everyone that's in this category. It is an awesome package, especially for under $19,000. The rideability is very good. The throttle is very good. I like all the modes. They behave exactly as I expect them to, and they should. The shifter is kind of the only real thing I've got a complaint about this bike that really just hits you in the face every single time you ride it. I do have some complaints with top end power, where it feels like it's gaining power and then it plateaus and feels like it dies off a little bit, and then you shift the next gear and it gives you like a burst of power. So that's telling me this bike is kind of falling on its face up top, and just like the 1250, I bet you we're going to see that dyno kind of fall down before it hits the red line. And I think it's because it's breathing through a straw, so I think some velocity stacks will do this bike a lot of good. And even in cooler weather here, I do feel a little bit of heat coming from my legs. This is an air slash liquid cooled motor, meaning it's still air cooled, but also has liquid cooling, has a little radiator here and here on the sides of the bike, and it kind of pushes off the heat to your legs, which right now at 67 degrees is nice. But I can understand maybe at 100 degrees that may be a little bit annoying for some people. So I think it's time now that we take the 1300 GS to the dyno, see what she does stock, then flash her, and then we'll start messing with some stacks. So it should be pretty fun because this is the world's first velocity stack system we're going to be attempting for the 1300 GS. No one else has attempted it. What's up, guys? I'm here at our San Diego dealer, Lee's Cycle here in San Diego, and today I've got the 1300 GS on the dyno, prepped and ready to go. We're gonna do some stock baseline numbers, we're gonna do some tuning numbers, and then we're gonna do some tuning with stack numbers. All right, wrapped here with the regular tuning with no stacks, and you can see about 3-wheel horsepower gain across the board here. We got rid of that soft limiter too at the top end, and there's a lot of intangibles here I'm gonna go over on my post-flash ride review with you guys that you can't see on the dyno. So yeah, we got little gains here and there, nothing crazy, but overall there are gains, and there's gonna be a big difference in rideability. Stage 1 is big rideability features, and I'm gonna go over that, like I said, with you guys, but let's go ahead now, tear this thing apart and get those stacks in there. And there we are. Actually, it looks pretty messy, but it's actually not that hard to do. This is only a few screws, pretty easy to get to. If I had this down, probably 10 minutes, but I had to figure this whole thing out, so it took me a little longer than 10 minutes. Now, let me get a focus here. You can see down there's a trumpet. This will not fit out of this slot, so I have to break it to bring it out. Once I break it, this, get a focus on it, this needs to go inside somehow. And you can see, it's not exactly gonna fit perfect. So I've gotta manage to fit literally a round peg into a square hole. All right, so now you can see this is the OEM stack right here, and this is our stack. That's a considerable difference in size, if I say so myself. So now we're gonna see we're gonna get this installed on the bike and then see what those numbers are with the flash. Okay guys, well, cutting was not necessary. I've gotten the whole stack in. This is a 1250 stack and a 1300, no cutting whatsoever. You do have to break out the old stack like I showed you, and this one kind of fits in. The plastic will kind of squeeze out a little bit, and you just kind of shove it in. I cut myself a little bit right there, so make sure when you're shoving it in that you don't push with all your force like this, because your handle just goes straight through into it and then hit the side like mine did. All right, she's all back together enough to do some dyno testing. Let's see what she does with the stacks and our tuning. All right, all wrapped up with that stack tuning, and what can we say here other than, wow, check this out. 20-wheel horsepower gain up at the top end of this. Now peak to peak here, we're seeing about 9-wheel horsepower there on the graph. But overall, we are getting massive gains. And in the mid-range, or sorry, in the bottom end and mid-range here, looks like we're losing, gaining. It's kind of going back and forth here, so no real difference there. But on the top end, it just gets ridiculous. After about 6,200 RPM, it starts carrying and carrying well above that stock arc. We pushed the RPMs out a little bit more for the stacks to kind of give you a wider power band, but this is going to be insane. 20 horsepower gain, along with the torque here. The torque here is ridiculous as well. Look at that gain on torque. And even down here where we're trading places, and let's say even here we're gaining a whole bunch of power here, but here we're swapping power out. So
it actually makes our graph look a lot more linear. So you can see our blue right here, which is the tuned, and you can see it just nice and carry, whereas the red looks more like a roller coaster. It kind of goes up and down in power. And like I said on the ride review right there, that right there you can feel on the road. It kind of just nods off and falls off right there at the end of the RPM. This is going to be a lot more different of a feel. This is going to be an insane bike, especially with that max and torque right there. That is a ridiculous amount of torque. It's 13 wheel torque right there. And whether you're tuned with stacks or tuned without stacks, we're adding some really cool goodies into this package. Basically a lot of rideability stuff that was really annoying us about this bike. Quick shifter adjustments. Those of you guys that know exactly what I'm talking about, we fixed some of the clunky stuff on there. We have the exhaust valve open. We have some downshift burble now, and the exhaust valve is wide open. Let's hear it real quick, actually. Why not? Oh, this key, gotta wiggle it a little couple times here. There it goes. It's really sensitive. There we go, let's get it on. Now that sounds a lot better, and I'm sure it's gonna sound a lot better on the road and feel a lot better on the road with our adjustments for fueling, ignition, and there's a lot of limiters, especially in the lower gears. There's like wheelie limiters in this thing because obviously it's a torque monster, and we don't want this thing to lift off the ground. But for those of you that have the wheelie control on, you'll be safe, you'll be fine. But if you want to have fun with this bike, we've turned those limiters off as well. We fixed a lot of the start issues that people were having on the bike. There's a lot of stuff we've gone through on this bike just to make it better overall rideability wise, because power, while it's important, it's not the most important thing, especially on a bike like this where people aren't really buying it for power, they're buying it for its rideability. So what are we going to focus on this bike? The rideability phase. So let's get on the road and talk about these features while we're testing them in real time.
All right, guys, I'm back here with the R1300 GS, and man, this bike is now a completely transformed machine. There's so much to go over. Let's try and go over this step by step with you guys here. Let me start with just modes. All right, let's go over the mode stuff here. So right now I'm in Dynamic Pro, and the quick shifter's clunky. And here's second gear. It's straight up in the air, half throttle. And that's due to the fact that we removed some torque limiters, things like that in the low gears that were there, because this bike has an incredible amount of torque to it, more than an S1 or an M1000 RR even, at a little over 100. This is 105 wheel torque, insane amount of torque. So let's go over here to Eco. Start there in Eco mode. All right, so Eco. We still got a very soft throttle to it. So retaining mode function, because one of the things that people ask us all the time is, hey, if I flash my bike, am I still going to have the modes, or is everything changed? You'll still have your rain mode, which I don't have on here because it only allows you 4 modes to be enabled at one time. So because I have the Dynamic Pro on, I had to kind of remove the rain, but I'm showing you here on Eco, it is the same exact thing as stock. And now that we've gone over the modes are all the same, let's go over what we've done to this bike, and it is incredible, guys. That was a second to third gear shift, mid-air, holding the tire. It's crazy by just removing these torque limiters and low gear limiters how much more lively the bike feels. But let's go even deeper into that, to what we've done with the throttle response. We've added 15% more throttle response across the board on the throttle itself. So when you're commanding a certain amount of throttle, it's going to be less of a twist for you to get more power. I noticed when I was riding this thing stock that it seemed like the bike was definitely getting a lot of power, no problem there, right? But the issue I was having was the delivery of the power and how far I had to twist to get said power. So what we did was we added the 15% more throttle response to it, and now I'm getting throttle by just a slight twist. It feels like a transformed bike, and we're not adding any power to it, we're just adding throttle response to it. But when you're on the freeway, for example, this is one thing I did notice on the freeway. If you're just cruising and you give it a little bit of gas, it feels like it's whatever. But with the 15% more, now I'm getting some speed out of this thing. But we're still getting that initial, it's very soft initially on the twist grip. It's not jerky. It's very nice. It's very subtle. And this isn't Dynamic Pro. You got to consider the road mode, rain mode, and Eco mode will be even softer than this. So you'll have plenty of options here in the combi and through the settings to adjust how you like your throttle. But for those of you that like a more responding throttle, we got you guys. Now let's continue with the power theme here, guys. We're adding a lot more sound with these velocity stacks, which I have installed at the moment on this 1300, along with our tuning. The bike sounds amazing. And of course, we're making 20 wheel more horsepower over that stock baseline at 8,200 RPM. Now, up to about 6,000 RPM, we're about the same as stock. We kind of go back and forth, we trade, but our graph, or I mean our tuning, our graph is a lot more linear and smooth than the stock graph, which looks more like a roller coaster kind of going up and down. And the sound out of these stacks, it just makes you want to twist the throttle more. It gives you more like a feel of the bike and the engine. It feels so good. We've also adjusted the exhaust valve to give us more sound. And we've got the stock pipe on here. I mean the stock pipe. Meaning there's no Akrapovic option on this bike. But even when I'm downshifting, sometimes I'll get some burbles here and there at low speed when I'm coming to a stop, which is kind of cool. It wasn't doing that stock. Gives it more of a lively feel as well, more of sound. So if you are planning on doing a slip-on for your bike only or something like that, just get our tune first, see how it sounds. If you enjoy that sound, you don't even need to modify your exhaust, because that exhaust valve opening in certain cases at idle and revving and coming to stops, sometimes that satisfies a lot of people and will save you a lot of money. Now the power stock versus our flash, with just the flash and no stacks, not a huge gain. We're only talking a couple horsepower. I mean, you do feel it. There's definitely a difference in the power, definitely a difference in the ability of getting to that power, and the throttle itself, like the throttle's just a lot smoother, the fueling's smoother. But what you're also gaining is that throttle response, which in my opinion, oh, it's so neat. Like this is, let me roll into this right here. So I'm rolling in, you can see it go, go, go. Oh, it just comes alive. Like when you twist past a certain point, it just comes alive and it feels so good. So you'll always have that, but it's not something that's a detriment to the bike when you're just coming off of stops or you sneeze. Like some people think that extra throttle response means the bike, it makes it unrideable or it makes it too twitchy or jerky. That is not the case here whatsoever. It bases that off of a complex amount of tables, and it's not just, oh, it's initial twist. It's not even anything like that. So that's what makes it still very rideable, but also with more of a throttle response. Right now, we've got the engine fans turned on a little bit lower so the engine stays cooler. If the engine stays cooler, that means your oil's cooler. If the oil's cooler, it means it lasts longer. If the oil lasts longer, your engine lasts longer. So we kind of go through everything on this bike. And even the quick shifter is modified now. Now I know the quick shifter is a huge complaint on this bike, and I am one of those people that's part of that group of people complaining about the quick shifter. Now using the up quick shifter, meaning I'm going from second to third, third to fourth, fourth to fifth, whatever, it does not feel good. I'll be honest with you guys. So if I hang a gear for long, let's say I hang third gear here like this, and then I let go of it, and then I want to go to the next gear, it's clunky. But on the downshift, it is so unbelievably smooth now. We managed to find that table and get this thing smoothed out. But even on the upshift table, if you're accelerating while you're shifting, it's smooth. But it's when you hang a gear, it's not smooth whatsoever. Even at very low speed, if I were to slow the bike down here, if I can, you see, slow down here. So I'm low speed now. It's still very smooth. It feels just like a click and then it goes right into gear. But it's when you try to hang gears high. So I'm in third here, and then we go to fourth. It clunks like that. But downshifting, look at this. So much smoother. But the upshift, still a little bit clunky. So we've also gotten rid of the speed limiters in the bike. We've also gotten rid of the cruise control speed limiters in the bike, if you ever needed that. Now with the stacks, we are getting an absurd amount of power, but we're not losing any rideability. Think of our regular flash without the stacks, the stage 1 flash, and then we just add 20 wheel horsepower up top to this thing over stock. That's what that is basically. And the sound that comes out of this bike, it's so much more aggressive now. I mean, you guys heard it, but I mean, hear that? It sounds aggressive. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna get over here to more of the top speed stuff to see what these stacks really sound like top end and how they feel on the bike when we go through some turns here and how the bike responds to this extra power. All right, we got some spirited riding here. The bike is completely transformed up top. It's hard to hang on to in second gear. I gotta lean forward to make sure the tire doesn't come right off the ground. The speed climbs much, much faster. And the sound coming out of this bike is absolutely crazy, guys. A good smooth turn-ins, even shifting mid-turn. A little more clunky than I'd like, to be honest. Slow turn, there we go. Oh my goodness, the brakes are very decent, like I said before. Let's go low speed. Let's see how that tip in is. Not bad at all. Tip in is good. The throttle response is not affecting it at all. Good downshifts. The downshifts are amazing now. And the torque, it is for days. I could honestly not bother shifting this thing and still be fine. The top end speed, very good. Oh man, topping this thing out. Woo! What a delight this bike is to ride. It is so unsuspecting. I can't get over that sound. I almost just want to rev it just for the sound. And the RPM limiter, we've increased a couple hundred RPMs. Increase that power band a little bit. Oh, the brakes are so good. These factory anchors, man. And the sound. So good. What an amazing thrill to ride this bike is now. Wow. So it's not even comparable up top. Not even comparable to stock, and then I can just go easily like this and cruise it like it is stock. And if I want to get on it, it's got power. It's got plenty of power. So now we got that finished. Let's go ahead and do a 60 through 130. See what she does. I guarantee you it's going to be much faster than stock. Let's check it out. All right, ready to do 60 through 130 post flash on the 1300 GS. I've got the Dragy here ready. Again, we're going to do a 60 through 130, and I'm going to be starting in third gear to make an apples and apples comparison. Let's go and put that in my pocket, ready to go, and let's put this thing into race mode. All right, let's see what we can get here. You guys saw that was an 8.4 second 60 through 130 versus the 10.3 pre-flash. That is almost an entire 2 seconds faster that our flash and stacks propelled this bike to. Pretty crazy. That's a substantial increase in the 60 through 130 time. So we've tested the top end now. We've tested regular rideability. We've gone over some features. I think it's time to wrap up this review and go over some of the bullet points that we've changed on the bike. With regular tuning, we're not getting a whole lot of power. It's 2 to 3 horsepower across the band we're gaining, but we're also gaining a whole lot of rideability in the bike. The smoothness, the on-off throttle is more one-to-one, but also a lot more smooth and more responsive at the same time. We added 15% more response to the throttle. We removed speed limiters. We removed the down-low limiters to the torque. We've removed a lot of things, so this bike gives you everything it could possibly give you as it was supposed to come from the factory, without affecting the reliability or rideability of the motorcycle. Now, of course, with our stacks, we are gaining 20 wheel horsepower, 8,200 RPM. And we do raise the RPM limiter a couple hundred RPMs to achieve a wider power band. Now, if you're not a person that wants more RPM or more RPM limiter on their bike, we can also give it to you with a stock RPM limiter as part of our massive questionnaire we send to our customers after they purchase and upload their tunes to our website, so we can decipher exactly how to custom make this tune for you. We do it with every single person. This isn't just some canned tune we give to every single person. We actually customize all of our tunes depending on how you ride it, what you're going to be doing with the bike. There's a few things we go through with you guys, not just, okay, here's your tune, everyone gets the same thing. Everything is custom for you guys depending on how you answer the questionnaire. The quick shifter, we've gotten a little bit better upshifting, but it's still clunky. I'm not in love with it, but the downshifting is now smooth. I consider the downshifting very acceptable on this bike. It's exactly what I would want from this bike, and I would consider this, the downshifting, a massive step up from the 1250, for example. And like I said, we've also got rid of the speed limiters, the cruise control limiters. We've got the fan a lower temp now to keep the engine cooler. It's an overall better riding bike. And with the stacks, it's overall better riding with a massive amount of power up top. I've also been cruising this thing for a few gas tanks both ways, pre and post flash. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm not noticing a decrease in miles per gallon. Now, I will put an asterisk by that. If you're testing that at home, you just flash your bike and you're testing how fast the bike goes and the throttle response, and you're enjoying it with a heavy hand, you're gonna notice a decrease in mileage because your hand is heavier. That's how that works, guys. More air, more fuel, it means more speed and more miles per gallon, but it's less miles per gallon. Seems pretty common sense, but a lot of people, I think, just forget about that and just get overly excited about the flash, and then they get home, they go, hey, I went through a half a tank of gas. That's not normal. I think that wraps up everything about the 1300, the new 1300, how amazing this actual bike is. Even stock, it's amazing, but the tuning just pushes it over the edge. It makes this thing absolutely incredible. I want to thank you guys for watching this video and being a part of our channel. We just passed 1 million subscribers. That's awesome. That's all thanks to you guys, of course. And we didn't think when we started doing reviews on motorcycles that they would catch on like they did. It was a shot in the dark. No other tuners are doing anything like this, where they're doing 100 miles pre-flash, 100 miles post-flash, to show you guys all the benefits of what they can add to a bike. Usually they're just showing the bike on a dyno with numbers and staying silent of how they got there, or, you know, with the manipulation of the numbers and what they're doing with the bike specifically. This is why we do everything ourselves, start to finish, before we even offer it to customers, including any flashing on a motorcycle. We test it in-house before we do it, because on paper a flash could look good, but when you're riding the bike it could be a complete disaster. We've seen that from so many tuners. We didn't want to be lumped into that list as well. So parts, everything, we all R&D that stuff, make the tutorial videos, everything, just so you guys have a firm understanding of what you're doing to your motorcycle and what we've done to your motorcycle at the same time. So I think that's gonna be it for this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.